Well, President Obama says it was a failure to connect the dots that contributed to last month's terror scare aboard a Detroit-bound airplane. But in the aftermath of 9/11, when new information sharing techniques are already in place, what needs to be done differently? Joining us now is Jamie McIntyre, creator of thelineofdeparture.com. Jamie, thanks for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, based on the information that's come out so far, the report we got from the president, what do you make of the assessment we're getting?
Well, you know, one thing is clear, that this was not a case of failure to share the information. It was, you know, to use that shop-worn phrase, a failure to connect the dots. And one of the things that happened here, according to the White House review, is that the very redundancy that's supposed to prevent things like this from falling through the cracks so that this bomber didn't make it onto the terror watch list or the no-fly list, worked against it. It kind of like, you know, have you ever watched a baseball game where two outfielders are both standing there and the fly ball falls right between them because each one thinks the other one is going to make the move? Well, that's kind of what happened here. The National Counterterrorism Center is supposed to take the lead in these things. The CIA is supposed to back it up. The information was available to everyone, but as was pointed out earlier, this was a human failure. People didn't do their job that they were supposed to do to follow up on these things, and that's where the review is going, why that happened and how they can prevent that again.
We know that there's such a mountain of information that the agencies have to sift through every single day. When you've got something as simple as a misspelled name, how do you close those gaps?
Well, you know, that really is the challenge. This is a mountain of information. One of the things that intelligence agencies have been able to do since September 11th is they have vastly increased their intelligence gathering apparatus, and they have huge amounts of data that have to be analyzed. It's the analyzing the data, it's the passing it along, it's the acting on it. It is very, very much that difficult job of connecting the dots. And you know, there was a political cartoon by, I think it was Tim Tolles in the Washington Post the other day, that just had a whole array of dots and said, you know, you could connect these any way you want. Well, that, you know, it's a cartoon, but it's very much the problem that they had. There are hundreds of things that look suspicious, and how do you find the real one? The problem in this case is they were real red flags that should have been much more obvious. This wasn't a case where, in retrospect, it looks obvious, but it didn't at the time. It should have been really obvious at the time, and that's where the failure was.
And some of the intelligence leaders that I've talked to have said one of the problems they have is that we have a lot of turnover with analysts. We have young analysts that come in, and it takes 5 or 10 years until they really are seasoned, but they're not necessarily sticking around that long. Is that a weak link for us?
Yeah, and another part of it is the second guessing. I mean, you heard Senator Lieberman say, you know, if humans made mistakes, we should punish them. Well, sometimes the people who made these mistakes, who acknowledge the mistakes, who understand and are learning from the mistakes, are actually the best ones to correct it. We have this, you know, theory like lop off their heads, bring in somebody new, and that may make everybody feel good, but it doesn't send a good message through the intelligence community. And part of it is, if you're an intelligence analyst and you're more worried about covering your posterior than you are about, you know, taking a, you know, actually being able to assess the risk, you're not going to make as good judgment. So there also needs to be some confidence displayed in the intelligence community, and also a recognition of the tremendous amount of positive work that they have done in preventing attacks, many of which they haven't been able to tell us about over the past 8 years.
Absolutely, and we certainly need to give a lot of credit in that situation, because we know people are working 24/7, 365 days a year, and like you said, keeping us from threats that we're fortunate enough we'll never have to know about because of their hard work.
Absolutely.
Jamie McIntyre, thank you very much.
Thank you.